Hello and welcome back to this course on animating shapes. Now what I want to do is now create a screensaver that will generate circles of random sizes in random positions. But first, what is a screensaver, I hear you ask? Well, if we go to Wikipedia here, we can see that a screensaver is a computer program, tick, that's what we're going to write, that blanks the display screen or fills it with moving images. Ooh, so we could just fill it with moving images or patterns when the computer has been idle for a designated amount of time. And it goes on to say the original purpose of screensavers was to prevent phosphor burn-in on CRT or plasma computer monitors. And most modern monitors don't even need them anymore. But it's going to be fun to create one. So let's get started. Jump into this lesson on called Random Screensaver, and then let's just run it and see what's happening. Looks like we're drawing this circle in the screen, and that's all that's happening. So let's modify this so we can create our screensaver. So the first thing the code is doing is setting the canvas size to 640 pixels wide by 360 pixels high. Then outside of the forever loop, we're setting the background to black. That's what the color 000 is. And then this forever with a colon means that whatever's underneath and indented, and in Python we generally indent with a tab, but as long as they're all indented the same amount, they're part of the same code. So these three lines are part of the same block of code. So these three lines form a block of code that gets repeated forever. So we set the fill color, we draw our circle, we sleep. Then we go back up, fill, set the fill color, draw the circle again in the same spot. So that's the first thing I want to change here. I want to draw this circle in different spots. But how do I do that? Well, what I'd ideally like to do is pick some random numbers and then draw the circle in those random spots. So instead of drawing them at 50 and 75, I'm going to pick some random numbers. Now, this is one of the advantages of using Python, that there's already a lot of code written for us, and somebody's written an entire library called random that has all these functions we can use that help us generate random numbers. And so that library is called random, and inside it is a function called randint, and that lets us pick a random integer. Remember, an integer is a whole number, so like 1 or 0 or -3. But 3.5, that's not an integer because it's got the decimal part. All right, so how do we import someone else's library? Well, we use, let me stop my code here so I can edit it. We use the statement, the from statement. We say from, and then we put the name of the library, and I know this one's called random, and then we say import, and we put a list of the functions that we want to include. Or if you want to include everything, you say import star, and that imports everything from that library. But I only want to use the random integer function, randint. So I'm going to say from random import randint. And when I do that, now I can use the randint function. And the randint function lets me pick a number between two numbers. So let's say I want to say, oops, I deleted some code there. I can create a variable called x, and instead of, I could set it to say 100, and then I could say y equals 200, and then I draw my circle at x and y. And what this would do is draw my circle at 100 across, 200 up. But again, that's not random, so instead of saying draw it at 100, what I do is I say x equals randint between 0 and 640, which is the width of the screen. Okay, so now notice y is always at 200, but I'm picking a random x value now, and so I'm drawing the circle at different x positions every time. There we go, now I'm getting the circles drawn randomly across the x. Now, if I wanted to make this better, which I do the same thing for the y. I say pick a random integer between 0 and 360 because that's the height of the screen. Now I should be getting random circles anywhere on the screen. Very cool. Now, what about the size? This is always set to be 20, the radius here. So again, I could say radius equals a random integer between, say, 5 and 30. And now, instead of drawing the circle always with the radius of 20, I say draw it with a value of radius, which has been set to a random number or a random integer between 5 and 30. Start this now. Hey, looking good. I like it. Now, pause the video and see if you can figure out how to generate random colors. All right, I'm assuming you've had a go at that. So I am going to choose a random value for the red component of the color, a random value for the green, and a random value for the blue component. And I'm going to call those variables R, G, and B. So R is going to equal a random integer, just zoom in here, a random integer between 0 and 255, because that's the values we pass into the color functions. So a random integer between 0 means none of that intensity and 255 means full intensity. So green equals also a random integer between 0 and 255, and blue equals a random integer between 0 and 255. And then I really want to have this fill command here happen after I've chosen the values. So order is important. And instead of being this specified color, I put R, G, and B. And now I'm picking a random color as well. All right, and I might just order this a little better just because, I mean, you don't have to, but I just like this here. Choose the X and the Y, choose the radius, then choose the colors. So I'm going to put some comments here. Choose the location. Remember, a comment starts with a hash. And now here, choose the size. And then after here, choose the color. All right. And now let's take a look at it. Hey, looking very cool. I'm liking that a lot. Now, what are some other things we could do? I think it would be good to make these kind of slightly transparent so then you can see through them. Like see here, this circle here. Yeah, I reckon it'd be good to see through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add at the end of this fill command here a comma and say, let's make it 0.75. Remember, 0 means fully transparent, so you wouldn't see the circle at all, and 1 means not transparent at all. So this is just slightly transparent. There we go. And then you see here when we see it overlapping, I think that looks good. Now, some people like this stroke on there. I think it looks pretty good on the outside, the black stroke. But if you don't like that, try experimenting. Maybe we just say no stroke. And then if you run that, there's no stroke. That looks good too. I mean, it's really a personal choice. Now, here's some other things I just want to talk about that we can throw in and learn while we're doing this. When we call set canvas size and we pass in these values, PyAngelo behind the scenes creates these variables for us called width and height. And width has whatever you specified for the width in the set canvas size call, and height is whatever you've called, whatever you've passed in as the second parameter here. So instead of saying 0 to 640, I could say 0 to and change this to width. And I could say 0 to and change this to height. And the beauty about doing this is if I change the width, say I want it to be maybe 800 pixels wide and 400 pixels high, now I don't have to change my code here, whereas before I would have had to update these numbers, but it's going to automatically adjust here. So even on the wider screen, I'm still getting circles appearing anywhere. And then one other cool feature is that, let me stop here, is that instead of setting it to a particular height, you can say, set it to window height and window width, and that will set your canvas to the size of your window. So if I run this now and go start, then, oh, look, I've got them backwards. What did I do? Oh, it looks like I've got the height and the width mixed up. Oh, window height first. Yes, I have got them mixed up. You always specify the width first. So window width and window height. There we go. All right, now if I run this, it gets set to the height and width of the window. And there we have our screensaver. Very cool. All right, so now if you want to extend this, maybe pick a random number between 1 and 2. If the number's 1, then draw a circle. If the number's 2, draw a rectangle. Pause the video, see if you can do that. All right, I'm assuming you've had a go at it. I'm going to do that as well. So here, I'm going to put a comment in, choose the shape, and then I'm going to say choice equals randint between 1 and 2. So I am creating a variable called choice. And remember, this equals is the assignment operator. So I'm taking whatever is on this right-hand side, which is a function that gives me a random number between 1 and 2 in this case, because they're the numbers I've passed in, and then stores that back in choice. So then I can say if choice is equivalent to 1, and remember, in my if statement, I need a double equals, and then I need to end the line with a colon. That means there's going to be an indented block below, which is only going to execute if this condition is true. So if the choice was 1. So that means half the time this is going to happen. And if that's the case, what I want to do is actually draw the circle. So I'm just going to move the circle command up to here. And if it's not equal to 1, then I can put my else colon, and then I have another block of code below here where I can say draw a rectangle at x, y, and let's just make it a square. So instead of radius, because that's specific to a circle, maybe I call this variable size. And then I need to update this command here to say size. And then I'm going to make it size, comma size. Because remember, a rectangle we specified the bottom left corner with the x and y. And then the size is the width and the height. So now if I run this, I should get, yeah, some rectangles, some circles, all different sizes. Very cool. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.